Welcome to Realizing Real Estate. Each week we will be issuing a new edition, an interview with an investor, developer, business leader, government official, scholars, and others, all who in some way impact the world of real estate and the quality of your investment. Real estate has many facets. We will explore many of them in these brief podcasts. Every one of our guests will be interviewed in greater depth and length on our weekly radio show, Our House, which is broadcast every Saturday at 9 a.m. on WBN 9:30 a.m. and 98.5 FM HD3 in the Buffalo Niagara Marketplace, but is accessible anywhere in the world on the Odyssey app or at WBN.com. All of Realizing Real Estate podcasts are available at the iTunes Store, and our House radio shows are archived on our blog at huntrealestate.com. Join us every week and give us your feedback and suggestions for future topics, also at huntrealestate.com. Welcome to another episode of Realizing Real Estate. This is Peter Hunt, and live today with me is Bill Severyn, and Will Severyn, his son, from Severyn Development, a firm that develops raw land and turns it into building lots and then builds homes on them, and among other things. So why don't you, Will Severyn, give us a little background on where Severyn Development came from?
Well, honestly, we started by flipping houses. So, working with our father to find something that, we could fix up. This was back in 2011. But finding something that we could fix up, get our hands on it, obviously complete a renovation and resell. And, we never really intended on getting into new development. But what was happening was the more properties that we were purchasing, some of them started to come with a vacant lot next door, right? And it almost got to this point where we had like 4 or 5 of these lots. And it was probably a conversation over the dinner table. We said, hey, well, why don't we try our hand in building one of these? Of course, we lost a good amount on the first one. It was, we chalk it up to tuition. But from there, it was a product that we were able to show. So then, that turned into, one house turned into 3 build orders. 3 build orders turned into some subdivisions. Subdivisions turned into patio homes, income properties, and it's kind of just, it's developed from there.
One important step that you left out in that series of events was the rent-to-own concept, which I thought was very innovative at the time, and certainly was a means by which people that otherwise might not be able to buy a home were able to get into a home, live there, experience what it was like to be in that house, and then like it enough and develop some equity so that they could actually buy it.
Yes. Well, that's kind of like, we like to say it's a test drive on a house. Now, when we were building some of the subdivisions that we actually did put together, we built specifically for rent. That's kind of it's a tagline. It's kind of a popular podcast, discussion right now too, which is build for rent. But when most people are using that terms, we follow like John Burns and some of the other, real estate professionals, but
not the good ones.
Yeah, no,
the really sophisticated ones like this.
But that's the term when they say build for rent. Most people are looking at build for rent single family. Now, it took us a while to actually, fine tune our process, because when we are able to build for rent, we have to do it very efficiently. We did 5 houses right next to each other. We built them in a very quick sequence. It allowed us to bring down our cost and then also offer them out to the market. But we were amazed what the reaction was in the market. We started this in 2019, building for rent. Well, people could still buy a house in 2019.
At a low interest rate.
At a low interest rate and at a decent price. And yet, we put up a rendering with a monthly rental rate, and we oversubscribed. We actually, I was running around. Of course, my brother and I are excited. I'm running around signing leases. He's signing leases. Well, we're out of houses. And it was amazing, even at a time where things were still affordable and rates were, you could work with. People were still interested in this. And again, it's still, like we were talking on the show, it's still this it's a story of haves and have-nots. If somebody hasn't been able to save effectively, if somebody hasn't been able to earn enough, it's the savings, it's the down payment that people are really suffering from. That it's difficult to save up enough money with the expense of everything in your current day-to-day life, to purchase. But with us, and through that rent to own, 10% of your monthly rent is saved for you for a down payment. And now what we found is, we started 2 portfolios in 2019. We're now liquidating those portfolios to our tenants, which is also interesting because they came to us in an interest rate environment of probably around 4.5%, and they're buying in 6.5%, 7%. But really what it was we've been able to effectively help them save over time. And over 5 years, they have close to 5% money down.
Some of the people watching or listening to this might ask themselves, well, gee, what kind of education would I have to do what you guys are doing? Is there, Bill Severyn Sr., you've been in this business a long time, like I have, so it was kind of in your blood. And you might have had over the dinner table enough osmosis there to catch on to what's happening, but most people don't have that opportunity.
No.
So if you were to recommend to somebody, if they were thinking about coming into an industry like you just described in terms of investing in real estate, building houses, whatever it might be, where would someone start?
I mean, we started trial by fire. I mean, for us.
But you had to have seek out investors. You had to have something behind you. Obviously, the fact that your family isn't deeply involved in this is one thing, but
yes. But
beyond that, there's got to be, you had to have some help. Somebody had to guide you along the way. Somebody had to, maybe it was something in school. Any course you took or anything?
Well, that's what I was gonna allude to. So I graduated from Canisius College here locally with a degree in entrepreneurship. So we knew from the onset we were going to get into business. Unfortunately, I don't believe they offer that as a major anymore at Canisius. It obviously served me well, but really what was the most important part about the entire course was our very last semester. It was a capstone course. They called it Entrepreneurs on Campus. And it was successful business owners, local guys and women that would show up and basically just for 3 hours. It was an evening course. For 3 hours, just talk about how they started. And they would write their cell phone on the board and their email address, and they would ask everybody to follow up. If you want to have another cup of coffee, if you have a business idea that you'd like to present, come talk to us. Wouldn't you believe I was in a class of 33 people? I was the only one that ever reached out. So, of course, I got a meeting.
Let me guess. Was it Stuart Engert?
It was Stuart Engert and Dr.
I just happen to know.
Yep, and then Dr. Alan Weinstein. Both those guys ran the course.
I know them both well and have for a long time, and they're wonderful people, and they certainly have done a lot for a lot of young people in this town.
Changed my life, really.
I just was exchanging notes with Stuart recently. Just saw he enjoys. They're wonderful people. Anyway, long story short, you had a leg up on the rest of the world, but it's very interesting that so few people followed up.
Yes,
maybe they were in the wrong class, I guess, because I can't help but think that if you're in an entrepreneurial class, that you wouldn't want to follow up on that kind of thing.
And you have to reach out. I mean, it's amazing how many people. I mean, I think there were 15 different business owners that came in to that course. 12 of them ended up working with us, and relatively quickly. And it was just the, showing that you're willing to put yourself out there, showing that you're willing to, follow up. And I do want to say as well, during that course, both Stuart Engert and Dr. Weinstein, we were developing business plans. So there was something to take to the table.
Sure.
Maybe most kids saw it as just a homework assignment, and they never really thought, anything about it. We actually turned it into what it is we're doing.
Well, I think that's remarkable. And before we leave that subject, would you be available to any of our listeners if somebody wanted to ask you questions about how you started?
Oh, absolutely. We actually.
So how would they reach you? Just tell people, our listeners.
Yeah. Well, so probably the best way to get me would be at our business address. It would be Will, just WILL, at Severyn.co.
SEVERYN.
Correct. Just shoot me an email.
Great.
We still do it. We do get asked to come back to Canisius College and speak in that course. We do it every single time.
All right, I'm going to shift gears to Bill. We've only got a couple minutes here left, Bill. You are doing several projects right now. What are you building right now?
Right now, what seems to be our focus over probably the last 6 months is that we're working with a lot of people that are doing custom homes with us. We are still finishing up our little patio home subdivision in Alden. I think we've got a couple lots left there. We also have a few lots left in our subdivision in Lockport. But what's really happened primarily over, like I said, the last 6 months is a lot of people are approaching us that are looking for something other than what everybody refers to as the cookie cutter home. Mm-hmm. So they don't want a cookie cutter home. They want something that they can help participate in the design and in what that actually looks like. And honestly, I think we're having a lot of fun with that. We have a designer on staff. She does an amazing job. We also have an architect that we work with on a regular basis. So together, we put together what their vision is and what their ideas are, and we are creating some really interesting houses. We've got some property in Orchard Park that we're doing right now. We're actually building a barn dominium. It's going to be really interesting. I have seen them in different parts of the country, but we haven't seen one locally. I suppose there is one somewhere in the area, but we're going to have one right in Orchard Park. And if somebody
what is a barn dominium?
A barn dominium is basically, I think where it started was, people took a barn and they turned it into a home. But we're building from scratch a custom home that is the shape and the look of a barn, but it is a full, I think it's 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths, and it's not a very big home. It's about 1,800 square feet.
So it's a mansard roof and
it's a clear span like you would expect a barn.
Yes, exactly.
Basically taking that open concept living and just blowing it out. So it's going to be interesting.
You put a basement underneath?
Oh yeah, full basement. And this particular purchaser decided not to do an attached garage, but that something like that is an option. So that's just one example. We've got some other things in the works that are totally custom, and I think our team enjoys that. I think we enjoy creating something like that. So.
We've talked in the past about average cost to build a new house today, something $250 plus per square foot. How much more does it add to go custom?
Typically what happens is that the cost to go custom is really just what people are designing. So we don't necessarily have an extra cost. We try to work within people's budget to give them what they want, and I don't really believe we have extra costs.
So do you work backwards then? Somebody says, I can go up to $550,000. Let's start there and work our way back.
Honestly, we kind of go back and forth. We talk to them about what they would like to have, and we talk to them about a budget, and then typically we kind of massage the plan, and then we also talk to them about the possibility of equity in their home, how much equity they have there. Maybe it's more than they think. Sometimes people will tell us they have a relative who's going to give them $100,000. Well, that certainly changes things. So, as we work through that design process, we're also talking to them about qualifications for a mortgage. We're also talking to them about equity in their home. So we have a process in planning this that usually takes I'd say 1 to 3 months, and that gives them enough time to consider their plan. It gives them time to think about what that home looks like, and then it gives them time to look at the finances also.
Last question. Not that there is any typical home buyer of a new construction today, but is there a particular age bracket where you see most of your buyers today?
Yes. I mean, I would say right now, like we alluded to in the show, these are second or third time homeowners. So, I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say it's 55 and up is
really?
the majority. Yeah. And I'm almost a little surprised too of how I don't want to say old, but how old some people are and still deciding to build a house. And it's kind of that same concept of, this is my last house. This is what I want. I'm in a position to do so.
Why not?
So why not? We'll do it.
It's a great idea. On that note, Bill Severyn, Sr. and Will Severyn, thank you very much for being with us at Realizing Real Estate today. I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners. We'll be back with another episode next week. And remember, when it comes to real estate, all of upstate is hunt country.
Thank you.